I'm Mason Rominski. I'm from Stephen, Minnesota, and I joined the United States Army.
Okay, and Stephen, did you graduate high school?
Graduated high school in 2021. Was very much involved, did football, basketball, golf, trap shooting. Loved high school. High school was a great time. My junior year, going into my senior year, I decided I would enlist. About that whole summer, I actually met with recruiters, and then ended up deciding to join the Army, and then so long, so forth.
What made you decide on the Army?
Well, actually, I originally wanted to go to the Air Force. My grandfather, he was in the Air Force. And then went to the recruiter and I said, hey, I would really like to do this. And she said, okay, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'd like to be an MP. Or military police. There they got the security forces. And I said, I want to do security forces. And she said, okay, yep. Asked me all these questions. And yeah, you qualify for everything. You know, you did that ASVAB little test you do when we did in high school. And she said, yeah, you qualify for all of it. I said, sweet, all right, well, let's go down to MEPS and I'll sign the papers. I want to do this. And she said, oh, you're not colorblind by chance? I said, well, it's the red-green colorblind, the most common one. And she said, well, then you're not going to qualify. I said, well, okay. So me and my mom, we got out of the recruiting station or office there, and I didn't know what to do. My mom said, well, why don't you join the Army? I said, I don't want to join the Army, don't want to do it. She said, well, just go over there and talk to him. See if you can get the military police over there. Ended up going over, and the guy said, yeah, that don't matter over here. So I said, well, that's what he said. My mom says, is this really what you want to do, be an MP? I said, well, yeah. She said, well, just do the Army. And so forth. That whole summer, like I said, went with the recruiters, and then it was, you know, paperwork and all that, and left that following year.
So did you know anybody when you went in? I mean, did you go in a buddy program?
Nope, I went by myself. Yep, went by myself. No, I didn't know anybody. When I showed up to basic training, it was all new faces. You know, it was fun though. It was a good experience.
So how'd you get there?
Oh, we left from Fargo, MEPS. Left from there, and then.
Did you get sworn in Fargo?
Yep, we got sworn in Fargo, did all that, and then, yeah, let's see here. We spent one night there, and then they flew us to St. Louis. We flew us to St. Louis, and from St. Louis we went down to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I spent 22 weeks of basic training there.
So what did your basic training involve?
Well, it was kind of COVID time, so everything was kind of on lockdown a little bit. You had to wear masks, so that kind of got to be a hassle, especially running.
Really?
You know, you could take it off, but then you had to be right back on. And if they smoked you, you know, did push-ups, you know, when you screw up, you know, you still got that mask on, so it's kind of sucked having that. But no, we got there, and it was 2 weeks of in-processing. So now usually it's only 4 or 5 days, you know, you get your shots and all that, go to dental, do all this stuff. Well, it ended up being like 2 weeks, and so we just sat around there for about 2 weeks and did absolutely nothing. And that was probably the most boring time ever, because all you were thinking about is, well, is basic training going to start? I mean, when is it going to start? When are we going to leave? Because there was drill sergeants around, but I mean, they yelled at you a little bit, but they were nothing hard. So you kind of thought, well, what the heck's going on? And then they all brought us outside once the day we left, loaded us up on these buses. They were like semi-trailers, and then in the back there they had windows and seats. That's what we got on. But we all piled in there, and then they brought you to your basic training company there, and then it was. You know.
So what were the barracks like?
Barracks were nice. We had one of the nicer barracks.
Brick, motor brick?
Yep, they're all brick, and you'd walk up they had 3 levels. Yep, and bay style, you know, bunk beds for left to right, and yeah, they were actually one of the nicer barracks on Fort Leonard Wood.
Did you have TV room or something?
No, we didn't have nothing like that. It was actually I went, like I said, to be an MP, and it was it's called OSA, One Station Unit Training. I didn't know this going in. I thought I would do 10 weeks of basic training, which is standard for all soldiers, and then my 10 to 12 weeks of AIT, which is you're learning your job. Well, as an MP, they combine that all into basic training. So you have drill sergeants for the whole 22 weeks.
So you're in Leonard Wood the whole time?
Whole time.
Okay.
And they're, you know, once you get to AIT, they kind of loosen up a little bit. You still have drill sergeants, but they're kind of like, hey, at night you have your own time. Sometimes, you know, in AIT, depends on your MOS, you have TVs, you can bring your, you know, things like that. It's more of a downtime for you.
So explain kind of what you went through during basic training. I mean, some of the routine.
So the routine was, you know, wake up at 0, wow, you'd end up 05, by 05:30 you got to be down in formation. You know, got to be 10 minutes prior, otherwise you're getting smoked, you know. Got to be early. Get down there, and then it was PT from 0530 or 06 would maybe start, because after you do your formation stuff from 0530 to 06, and then 06 to about 0730, so about an hour and a half PT. After that, go up, shower, change into uniform, and then it all depends on what you had that day, whether you're going to a range, whether you're going over land nav, first aid.
What months were you there?
I was there during June 21st. I arrived at Leonardwood.
A little warm.
Oh man, was it warm.
A little humid too?
Oh, humid, 90, 100 degrees. Oh yeah. It got so hot they had ice coolers. They called them ice dumping, and you just put your forearms in them, you know, to cool down your body.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, yep, because you'd have a few kids that pass out.
So they did take care of you pretty good that way?
Decently for the heat wise, yep.
Yeah. They call that place Little Korea for a reason.
Oh man, it is warm. It is warm.
And in the winter, it's cold.
Oh yeah, that's what luckily I left in about November, but it still got cold. I mean,
Yep.
a little cold. I was there for 22 weeks, but.
So what's some of the other things you did during basic? A lot of running?
Oh, running, we ran probably 1.5 miles to 2 miles every day. You know, always did running. You know, a lot of times you did push-up, sit-up drills. You do 2 minutes push-ups, 2 minutes sit-ups, and you just kind of wind down to 30 seconds, you know. Do a minute 30, then a minute, you know, of each set.
Any long marches?
Yep,
or?
So they actually had 3 phases in basic training now. It's starts off as red, and that's where drill sergeants are like, they're on you, and you have your first FTX, field training exercise they call it. So you spend 1 day out in the woods, you ruck out there, it's like a 5-mile ruck with maybe 30 to 40 pound ruck. You ruck out there, spend the night, and then you wake up the next morning, they'll take a bus back to your barracks. So that's like your first getting used to being out in the field. Then your second is white phase, and that's where you have, it's a 7-mile ruck, and you spend 3 days out in the field. And you go, and you do a little bit of land nav while you're out there, and what else do you do? Well, that's, you maybe go to a few ranges, and then at blue phase, which is your last phase, like the last week of basic training, that's where you do your 12-mile ruck, and you have, that's
12-mile run?
12-mile rucksack.
Okay,
yep.
rucksack.
Yep, and then you, what else? They had called battle march and shoot, where you're in full kit and you had to ruck about 6 miles with your weapon, get down to a range, and while you're all tired, and then you have to shoot at some targets. And
kind of weapon you got?
M4, standard M4A1.
M4.
Yep. They changed that well, it's been quite a few years ago now. Yep. So then you do that, and then it was during that field training exercise, you get into your squads and teams, and you run little missions out in the woods. We had little night vision goggles they gave us, so that was kind of cool running through all that kind of stuff, and they gave you blanks, and so yeah, it was kind of fun. We had a funny story there and I don't know how it got mixed in, but through the blanks, a live round got mixed in there. Now granted, on all these M4 weapons, they call them BFAs. They put them on the end, so in case a live round does get in there, it just shatters that and no one gets hurt.
Oh really?
Well, there was a live round that got mixed in with the blanks, and we're running around doing this field training exercise, you know, shoot blanks at each other. Luckily, it was over with, you know, we just got done from our mission, and a drill sergeant saw a few rounds in there, and so he just loaded them in an M4 and, you know, just shooting them off to get rid of them. Well, he was shooting them, and you hear boom, 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 boom! Ended up shooting the porta potty with that live round. Luckily, no one got hurt, but yeah.
Nobody was in the porta potty.
Yep. So that was kind of, after that
That would have
night,
made for a quick ball movement.
oh yeah, after that night they said training's canceled, go in the woods, go into your little patrol base that you guys set up in there, and just chill out for the rest of the night. But
was there a graduation ceremony or anything?
yep, we did have a graduation ceremony. I actually had 2 of them, because, a funny story, when I got to Leonardwood, it was supposed to be 22 weeks at an MP company. I have all MP drill sergeants, because they were going to take me through basic training, and then AIT, same drill sergeants, they're going to teach me a job and everything. Well, they got screwed up. The MP companies were so full that there was 130 of us. No, there's probably 100 of us MPs that were over. They didn't have room for us. So in basic training, I got sent to an infantry company. So I had all infantry drill sergeants. And they had a few different MOSs too, but one of our best drill sergeants, he was an infantry ranger, and he was our main guy that ran our platoon. And then we had 1 MP, and then a plumber. He was a drill sergeant too. So
a plumber?
A plumber, yep. And then
this falls right into your background, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know he does. I know. So he was a decent drill sergeant too. But every other platoon, they had infantry drill sergeants. So that was kind of a shock, you know, having all infantry and you're going to be an MP. So they were a little tough on us, but it was probably, I'd much rather been at that basic training company than where I left to after that, because after that 10 weeks of basic, then I went over to the MP companies to finish out my AIT and learn my job and stuff. But
so you graduate from basic training, and then you went over to
this infantry AIT.
You go to a different barracks?
Yep. So all we did, they took us after we graduated basic training at our infantry battalion, Golf 248, our barracks there. They took us, turned us around, walked to the road. They said, load up this bus, and we were packed in that bus with all our gear, geared to the ceiling of the bus, and we're all packed in there like this. And they took us about 6-10 miles down the road there, load us out, and said, carry your bags up to that company over there. That's where we'd be staying for the next 12 weeks.
So did you get any leave at all in that time?
No. So
is this your first leave coming home now?
Second, actually. So graduated basic, and they have your family day and your graduation day. So my family came up, and I got to spend 8 hours with them. And then that next day was graduation, and I got to spend, most kids get to spend the rest of the day with them, but since we were still technically in training, and we were going to go over to the company right over the road there, we got a half hour with our parents to say goodbye, loaded us up, and then we went over to that other company.
Really?
Yep. And then after that, spending 12 weeks there, then I got to have another graduation, and it actually worked out. I graduated right before Thanksgiving, so I got my graduation day, my family day, and then it was Thanksgiving that next day. And
when you say second graduation, was this AIT?
AIT, yep.
Okay.
And then the first sergeant there said, hey, since it's Thanksgiving, you guys, if your families are still in town, you guys can go out with them. So that was kind of nice, because we were graduated, we were just waiting to ship out to our next duty station. And that's where, about a week before you graduated AIT, everybody found out where they're going and stuff.
So while you were there, AIT, did you get any kind of leave at all, like go to St. Louis or Branson?
No, we didn't get any of that. Since technically, like I said, it's OSIT, which is basically basic training environment for 22 weeks. If you got a pass on Sundays for 8 hours to go out, that was, holy cow, you were taking that. But if you, throughout the week, if you failed any test during AIT, since we're going to law enforcement, any law enforcement test, anything, a practical exercise we had to do, you failed it, they would revoke your pass. You didn't get a pass on Sunday. So there's a handful of kids always staying back from pass. You couldn't go out, but it varies. Sometimes if you got an 8-hour pass, like I said, it was, holy cow, we're spending the whole 8 hours. It's gonna be a great time. You have to stay on base, obviously. Or you had a 4-hour pass or 2-hour pass. But within that pass, I would say 3-4 hours of it, you're waiting to get a haircut. Because you think about it, everybody on Sundays, everybody's trying to get haircuts. You all got to get haircuts for that following Monday. So you're standing in line for 2 hours just sitting there waiting. Luckily you had your phone, so you could call your parents, at least talk to your parents. That was probably the most thing that everybody did. They would go out, maybe get a bite to eat at the PX, pizza or something they haven't had for a while, and then they would go sit down somewhere and just talk to family for 7 hours. So
go through a little bit of AIT. What did they have you doing during AIT?
So for AIT, like I said, I'm MP in the military police. They had us doing a series of things. First couple weeks were basic laws. We went just PowerPoints of over military law and all that, and you take tests on a few of that. Then after that, it was paperwork. All right, here's a series of paperwork you guys are going to be doing on the job. Interviewing statements, things like that. Here's they are. Went over them for the week, and then we test out on them. Then after that, it was M17 range, which is M17 is a 6-hour 9mm pistol. Went there, went to the range, shot qual on that. So we did about a week of that. After that, we ended up doing patrol cars. Learn how to drive a patrol car. They kind of had a little course there that you had to go through. Nothing hard, but just to get familiar with the vehicle. Did that, and then after they worked on tasers and OCs, they showed you how to shoot a taser. You never actually shot one, but they told you how to reload the cartridges and stuff. And OC, you sprayed a little water-based OC just to learn how to spray it.
OC is?
Pepper spray.
Okay.
So you learn how to do that, because in basic training or in AIT, they don't actually spray you or tase you. You do that at your following unit. So they just teach you the familiars with that. So in AIT. So once we learned that, then we did, well, that was actually probably, learn how to detain people, put people in handcuffs, restraints, and combatives. Did a little bit of that. Learn how to take people down to the ground. And then after that, they took all that together and they called it, I forget exactly what they call it, but it was a big training exercise with all your law enforcement knowledge that you learned. You would hop in patrol cars and you'd actually drive around Leonardwood. And they have a little village there that's meant for law enforcement, fake houses and stuff, and they would, half the platoon would sleep, or half the company would sleep and half the company would be working. They'd pull, and then from that half that's working, they would take half and half. Half were working and the half are like...
How many in the company?
In the company there was about 200 of us. So then when this exercise came, like I said, 100 would go back to the barracks and sleep because they just worked the night shift. And then the day shift would come on, and then you'd have, between that day shift, they'd split it up half and half.
That's a lot of MPs.
Oh yeah, it is. And they would take half those guys, and they would be like your scenario people. They would run through the scenario. So you'd be patrolling and over the radio, hey, we have a domestic call or whatever. So you'd have to drive to this house, and your buddies would be playing these people, you know, criminals, and you'd have to arrest them. So it was kind of a mock on what you're actually going to be doing when you work the road. So we did that for, like, you had 3 days of that. So that was kind of fun to kind of actually work your job a little bit in a sense.
So did you still have PT and all that stuff?
So during that time we didn't have PT.
You didn't at all?
Nope, because it was like 3 days and you're just, well actually, no, we actually did. You'd get back after shift and it was, yeah, you still did PT, yep. No.
How was the food there?
Food was actually surprisingly really good. They had, you'd walk through and they'd always have 3 different meals. You'd either have fish, chicken, or beef. And a lot of times, I mean, they had everything from tacos to steak to, every once in a while you get a steak. Obviously it wasn't very good, but it was steak. You'd always have mashed potatoes, rice, and then you'd have a full salad bar you could go through, milk, juice, and all that.
Oh.
So yeah, you could, I wish I could have took a picture of how much a person would eat while they're there, because I remember I'd take my plate and I'd have mashed potatoes, rice, gravy, chicken, a full salad, two pieces of bread, 2 drinks, and probably a bowl of soup every day. I had all that food, and I was, you know, you'd have 15 minutes to eat, you know, because you'd get in there, and the minute you got in that defect, they'd start yelling at you, hurry up, hurry up. You had to put your cups a certain way, and oh yeah, there's all this stuff.
Yeah. So there was something I was going to ask you. I forgot what it was. So the food was fairly good.
Food was actually, yeah, very good.
Okay.
Yep.
And so this was 22 weeks you've been here now?
I was there for 22 weeks, yep.
And this is when you came home?
No, so I went 22 weeks, and then after I graduated, said bye to my parents again, went back to the company where I did basic training at, was there for another, after basic training, probably another week, so they could fit, because I got orders to go to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So, all right, I'm leaving. They said after graduation, that next week you're leaving like that Monday. I said, sweet.
Can I go back
Yep.
when you were there, like in basic training, were you allowed to have a cell phone?
Nope. So, yeah, you had your cell phone, and on Sundays, it actually started off, the whole time, you had half-hour phone calls on Sundays. That's it. So, after training, sometime on Sunday, they would, all right, everybody, the minute you got to your basic training company, we sat down in a line. Everybody sat down in your platoon because they already knew which platoon you were going to, and you got there. You sat down, you set your phone down on the floor, because we all sat on the floor, and they had some paperwork, and you filled up some things, and they'd come by, collect your phones, and you never saw them until Sunday. They had a big cage that they locked them up in, and then they'd file you in, grab your phone, you'd call your person, and after the half hour is up, they'd be yelling, shut the phones off, and then you had to hold them above your head, so because they didn't want them down here, so you'd play on them, so you held them above your head until you turned them in. Yep.
The same way in AIT then?
Same way in AIT, but in AIT, say you got a pass to go out for a couple hours, then they gave you your phone, and then you could go out.
Okay.
But the challenging part was, a lot of people found, was you can't walk and talk on the cell phone in uniform. So we had to walk maybe 3 miles to the PX. Well, that 3 miles, if you're walking, it takes a little while. Well, you want to call someone, so a lot of people, they would hurry up and run somewhere, get what they need to get done, sit down, and then they'd call people, because you're wasting time walking around. A lot of guys, they just wanted to sit down and talk to their family, because they hadn't talked to them for quite some time.
Yeah.
But
Cool. So now you're in Kentucky.
Yep.
What's the name of that? Fort Campbell?
Fort Campbell, yep. Yeah, that was kind of a hassle to get there.
Did you fly there then?
Yep.
Okay.
So I took government travel there. The government said, we'll pay for you to get there unless you want your family to bring you there. I said, no, that's fine. You guys can pay. I'm not going to argue that. Got in there and he said, yep, you're leaving Monday. After graduate like a Wednesday, family left.
And your folks were there for that too?
Nope. They took off after Thanksgiving because that was the last day I got to see them.
Okay.
So said goodbye, spent that weekend there in the company. And that Monday said, you're flying out. I said, perfect. All my bags loaded up, ready to go. And I'm standing there. There's maybe 4 of us flying out that day to different duty stations. All these guys going, I'm still sitting there. I haven't got my ticket yet. What's going on? Sat there for another half hour. And of course it's cold outside. You're kind of sitting there. And they said, well, they didn't book your ticket. I said, what do you mean, Drill Sergeant? He said, they screwed up somewhere. You're going to be here for another week. What? Another week? So I ended up sitting there at the company for another week. Luckily, you were graduated, so the drill sergeants, they weren't as hard on you. We didn't even do PT for that week. They just kind of woke us up, walked to chow. They weren't yelling. You were graduated already, so it wasn't that bad staying there, but it was still like, I want to leave.
Week of nothing.
Yeah, week of nothing. So finally got my ticket, flew down to the airport down there and got off the plane, and they had this whole itinerary for me, and they said at the bottom, call this bus service, they'll bring you down, because I flew into Nashville, and they said they'll bring you up, it's about an hour away is Fort Campbell. It's north of Nashville, and they said they will bus you over there. I said, sweet, all right, called this number. Hi, I'm so-and-so, I looked at my itinerary, I need to get on some bus. No, we don't do that bus service anymore. I said, what? Yeah, no, it's been closed for the last 5 years. Okay. So now I'm sitting there in my...
You're just a lucky guy, aren't you?
Yeah, sitting there in my uniform, 2 green duffel bags, and sitting outside this airport like, now what do I do? I have no way to get there. So I looked through my orders and stuff, and I'm looking through all this paperwork that they sent with me. And for some reason, they put in a leave packet for me that I didn't have to show up till December 3rd to Fort Campbell, and it was like November 29th that I flew into Nashville. And I'm looking at these papers and I said, wow, it's the 29th today, but I don't got to be there till the 3rd.
Got a week?
It was like 3-4 days, and I thought, what? Well, this isn't right. Of course, I'm new private. I don't know anything. I'm kind of scared, like, do I wait till the 3rd? And so I called someone from Fort Campbell. They give you a sponsor in basic training, like a specialist or sometimes a NCO, non-commissioned officer, to kind of help you. So I called him up and I said, hey man, I got this, I'm sitting here and I need a way. Actually, I called him, I said, I need a way to get to Fort Campbell. He said, yeah, we can't help you, man, you're on your own. I said, there's no one that can come pick me up. I don't have a vehicle, I just graduated. He said, no, try to find a way down here. Okay, so and then that's when I started looking through my paperwork and I saw that I had like 4 days of leave, and I called him up. I said, I didn't ask for leave or anything. Why is this in here? He said, well, they do it to compensate for travel, but since you're only traveling, it was literally a 6-hour flight. He said, well, you can, I guess, don't report till the 3rd. You take a little time to yourself, enjoy Nashville. So I was like, oh, okay. So here I was, right out of basic training, spent a couple days in Nashville, and then ended up getting a taxi to come pick me up and bring me down to Fort Campbell. And then once you got to Fort Campbell, you were there for, what was it? I was there for about a month at in-processing. So they had these Kalamazoo replacement barracks is what they were called. And you stayed with 4 other people in these barracks rooms, not even at your unit yet, and you in-process, did all this stuff to get onto the base, And then after that month, then they shipped you off to your company that you were.
And this is now December?
This was now December, yep.
So Kentucky's not a bad place to be in December.
It wasn't bad. Yeah, southern Kentucky, not bad at all. It was pretty warm. It didn't start getting cold till January, February. But
okay.
Yeah, yep.
And so what are you doing here? You're actually at a duty station where you're going to be useful now. Yep.
So I got there and I thought, all right, I'm ready to do law enforcement. That's what I signed up to do. Okay, get to the unit. They said, and what they do at Fort Campbell is that there's 4 MP companies, and throughout the year they rotate which MP companies work in the road on that base. Work in law enforcement on Fort Campbell, and each company works about 6 months of law enforcement, 4 to 6 months. So they're like, yep, we just got out of the road cycle, so you ain't going to be working law enforcement for a little while, but we'll get you trained up for a few things, because once you get to Fort Campbell, you still got to go through an additional 3 weeks of training. That's where you get tased, you get pepper sprayed. They run you through a few laws of Fort Campbell and how to work the road over there. Because it's a little different.
Tasing feels pretty good?
Haven't done it yet. Because I got to my unit and they're like, yep, we're going to send you through this, you know, so you get this done. So next time we work the road, you'll be eligible to work your road cycle and work law enforcement. Okay, so this was about, I showed up to my unit January 1st to 551 MP company. Showed up there, I was like, all right. Was there for about a month and a half. They're like, yeah, we're going to send you to this program so you can get qualified. Well, then about a week later, yep, we got orders we could possibly deploy. I was a month and a half out of basic training, I'm already deploying. And I said, oh, and they said, this happened before, you know, it's not for sure, we're just word from higher ups that it might happen. Okay, so for about 3 months, or about 3 weeks, we was back and forth whether we're deploying, and in the end, we ended up deploying to Poland for 6 months.
Really?
Yep. Deployed there for 6 months.
You went to Poland?
Yep. That's why I'm home right now. You got 25 days of leave, and yep.
So you've been to Poland and you're 25 days leave before you go?
No, this is after. So I just deployed to Poland, and then that's why I'm home on this time. Because
oh, before you go to Poland?
No, I've already deployed to Poland, and
okay.
then they said, since you guys deployed, you guys get block leave. You guys get some time to go home and see your families. That's why I had this 25 days at my home here.
Okay.
Because I just deployed to Poland.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was kind of scary, you know, not knowing what you're getting into, and a month and a half out of basic training, they said, yeah, you guys are deploying. You know, I've only been in the Army for, realistically, out of training for a month and a half, and now I'm deploying, but it was a good experience. What we were actually supposed to do in Poland and what we did were kind of two different things, so kind of lucked out there.
What'd you do?
Well, it started off as, and I didn't even know this till 3 months in Poland, but the original plan was, since Russia invaded Ukraine, that's the whole reason we got sent over there, was we're going to stay at Poland for possibly 3 weeks, 3-4 days if that, and then we're actually going to go into Russia, get troops out of it, or get refugees out of there and possibly fight the war. That was our original plan. Well, at last minute they had enough rounds for everybody to have a full combat load, and they said at the very last minute of the plane loading onto the plane to go to Poland, they said no, we're not loading this up. So something changed. So but the original plan was to actually go there. So we get and obviously nobody knows this except higher ups. We ended up getting to Poland. We stayed in Mielec, Poland at this airfield. The government rented out this public airfield, and they had tents set up, big wedding tents basically, and cots, you know, shoulder to shoulder next to each other basically. And we hang out there for 3 days, and they're like, hey, don't unpack all your guys' stuff because we're going to be leaving here soon. Okay. Well, then a week went by. Okay, well.
How many of you are there?
140 of us from Fort Campbell. From
all MPs?
Yep. Well, there was 3 MP companies there counting us. Us from Fort Campbell, from Fort Drum, and then Fort Bragg. So in total, there's probably 500 MPs, I'd say. Yeah, around 450, 500. And so yeah, we got there, and then it was like 3 weeks after. They're like, no, we're gonna stay here for a little while. And it just got progressively worse. Like, we're just sitting around. We ended up sitting around for about a month, not knowing what we're doing. We're just sitting in these cots, you know, get up in the morning and do absolutely nothing. And then they said, okay, we finally have a mission for you guys. You guys are going to go to this town called Resnau, which is, about an hour away. And that's where all the higher-ups stayed. They had the government rented out this arena, and they had all the higher-ups in there, and that's where they stayed, right next to this airfield. That's where we actually flew into. They said, the airfield in Resnau that you guys flew into, you guys are going to go there, and there's supplies coming in from all over the country, Italy, Great Britain, Australia, to help on this war. You guys are going to take these supplies off the trucks, count them, and then you're going to load them onto these semi-trucks, and Ukrainian drivers are going to bring them to the border to help with the war. Perfect. So we did that for probably about 2 months. 2 months of that, and that was long. 12-hour shifts, you know.
Really?
Yep, you'd work 12 hours. And, well, you work 12 hours, but you got to wake up. As you know in the military, if you're not early, you're late. So you got to wake up about an hour early, get ready, work your 12-hour shift, and then it takes about an hour to finally get back to to where we stayed at, where all the higher ups stayed, that arena there, that's where we actually stayed at while we were working. But, get through the doors there and just unpack, it takes a good hour.
You have cots the whole time?
You had bunk beds.
Bunk beds?
Yep. So we stayed there and, you're working by the end it ended up being a 14-hour day. And then you'd sleep for another, 10 hours maybe, because you got to get up, go eat a little bit, and then you're right back on it. Oh, you get drained out. We got drained out from that, but ended up doing that for, like I said, 2 months. And because when we were there at that G2, it's called the G2A arena. That's where, like I said, all the higher ups and we stayed. It was actually supposed to be for refugees. They would come in because in this arena floor there they had bunk bed. I couldn't even tell you how many bunk beds. They had them just all over, and they were supposed to be for refugees. Well, no refugees came. They had one family came in, and they're like, well, we're not going to stay here. I'm just going to go down to the hotel right down the road there. And that's what they did. So they had all these empty bunk beds for refugees, and no one came up. By the end of it, they were all full of soldiers. They said, well, why don't we use these? And soldiers came in there. Yeah.
So it still holds true in the military, hurry up and wait.
Oh, hurry up and wait is not a joke. They'll tell you, you basically be 15 minutes prior, but then you got to be 15 minutes to the 15 minutes. So you're showing up about a half hour early to everything. And if you're not early, you're late. Yep.
So you were in Poland for 6 months?
For 6 months, yep.
And 2 months of it you worked? And
2 months we worked, and the last 4. So after we got done working, they're like, the place you guys originally were staying at before you came here, Mielik, which is that city, which had that airfield as well, said, with all the tents, they said, you guys are going to go back there and just hang out there till you guys hear further orders, whether you guys are going home or what. Okay, perfect. So we hung out there for 4 months, and it was, sat around, did nothing, but the base got more and more, I don't know what you could say, comfortable. They started bringing in food vendors, food trucks. So okay, at lunchtime, if you wanted to go up and get a hot dog, get a burger, or whatever, you can go out there and get one. And then they started doing culture trips, they called them. If you wanted to go to Warsaw at 9:30 or at 05:30, the bus leaves. You can hop on there. By 9:30, you're in Warsaw, and from 9:30 to 6:30, you have the whole city to explore. So you could go on a few culture trips like that. You could go to Warsaw, Krakow. Went to Auschwitz. That was a very good experience. Mm-hmm. I think just about everybody in the platoon went. So we went there, and then that city that we stayed by, which was called Mielik, you could go out there basically, as long as you did PT in the morning, did whatever PT they had set or whatever, they were actually pretty lenient. They said, as long as you guys do PT, you guys are fine. We're not going to baby you and do formation PT. Just go out, run a little bit and whatever. So a lot of us went in town, went to the gym, and then after that, if you had nothing, no training that day or nothing, you could go out to the city and go explore, go do whatever you wanted, So it was actually kind of fun those last 4 months.
So it sounds like it took advantage of what you had.
Oh yeah, it was. Those last 4 months were a vacation, and man, we had fun.
So what's your rank now, Mason?
E3. I came in as an E2, because you could do a few things before you joined to get promoted early. So I did a few things, just pass a PT test, learn very basic military knowledge. So before I even joined, I was an E2, and then joined, and then in Poland there, I had about, I got promoted in March, July. I had about 4 to 5 months before I got pinned E3, because in the military, the first 4 ranks are automatic promotions. As long as you stay in the military long enough, you're going to get promoted that. Well, I had about 4 months before I got promoted to E3. Well, my leadership thought I was working hard and did very well over there. So over there, they actually pinned me 4 months early. They wavered me, and then I ended up getting pinned a little early. So that was kind of nice.
So is there anywhere along the line where you have to take a test to get promoted? Or
yep. When you hit...
E5 maybe?
Yeah, E5. Well, corporal, which is still
E4.
E4, but yep, once you hit the corporal rank. So what happens is you're a specialist at E4. And then after 6 months of being a specialist, they say, you guys, all right, now you're eligible to go to the promotion board, they call it. So you get in your dress uniform and know the NCO creed, know some of the basic military knowledge, go in front of first sergeants, and all these people that are sitting there, all higher ups, command sergeant majors and all them. and they just ask you questions. And if they think, yeah, you're knowledgeable in Army knowledge, then you get your...
So just an oral quiz?
Yep.
Okay.
And they, if they think you're knowledgeable, they call it your P status, your promotable status. You get your P status, and then at that time, you're just waiting for points. So each service member has so many points, and if you do college credits, you get more points. If you shoot expert, you get points. And once you hit a certain amount of points...
What did you shoot?
In basic, I shot expert. I did.
Cool. Yeah.
But once you pick up a certain amount of points, then it's then you get pinned your rank. So like it varies from month to month. Just to dumb it down, say corporal's 100 points and sergeant's 120. So if you have 100 points that month, they'll pin you corporal, not sergeant, because you still need 20 more. And then next month comes around and say you earn 20 points somehow, well then you pick up your sergeant rank. Yep.
So you can answer this if you want.
Yep.
You don't have to base it. But what was when you went in at basic training?
Yep.
How much did they pay you?
They same as when you're outside of basic. So each service member, it's E2, which I was. You got it's like $700 every 2 weeks. 730
every
bucks.
2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. So you're end up making about $1,400 to $1,300 a month.
Okay. So when you went to Poland, was there hazardous pay or anything?
Nope.
Nothing.
Nothing like that, because we weren't. I mean, we were about 2.5 hours from the border of Ukraine. Now, if we would have gone over there, we got hazard pay and all that. But since we stayed in Poland, we didn't get nothing.
Okay. Right. So now you're home for 25 days.
25 days. Yep.
And where do you go from there?
Go back to Fort Campbell and spend another. Well, I got 4 years left in my contract, so spend another 4 years there, and who knows, deploy again, maybe. Whatever they decide to do, you know, I don't have a say in that, but...
That sounds like you're kind of enjoying the service.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Like I said, in Poland there, we lucked out. We definitely had a good time, because after we got done working, this is what made it enjoyable. They would say, it'd be a Friday night, we had our platoon sergeant come up to us out of all people, and we were all sitting by our bunks, you know, playing cards, and he said, what are you guys doing tonight? I said, well, we're just, maybe we'll run in town and get a bite to eat. And he said, we'll go drink. It's a Friday night. Okay, so you know you'd come back and there'd be soldiers drunk basically every weekend, Fridays, Saturdays. You know, and in all fair, there's nothing to do. You sat around, so you just waited for the weekend to go out in town there and have some fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So that aspect of it, it was fun. It was a good time.
So do you plan on staying in, or?
No, I'll do my 4 years and get out. Do my 4
years and get out?
Yep. Well, 4 years left. Yep.
Yep. And what do you have aspirations to doing after your service?
Well, if I enjoy the law enforcement aspect, I'll probably come back and be a Minnesota State Trooper. You know, depends on do college if I have to. If not, then just go right on the patrol there and
follow in your dad's footsteps.
Yep, that's the plan. If I like law enforcement, if I don't, then I don't know what I'm going to do. Still got some time to think about it, but
yeah, 4
yeah.
years. Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to add about your military career?
Well, if anybody's watching this and they're thinking about joining the service, what I only recommend is sign a like I did. I signed a 5-year contract, which it's a long contract. But if anybody's thinking about joining the service, I'd 100% do it. Maybe get a 2 to 3 year contract. Don't do the 5, because by that 2 to 3 years is kind of that phase where you're like, if you re-enlist, then you can extend you can become a sergeant. Like for me, at my end of my 5 years, I'm going to be sergeant, because they're going to make me do it, because I'm going to have that much time in service, and it's just I'm there long enough where they're going to make me go to the promotion board. Whereas if I would have signed a 3-year, I don't have enough time in service to be that. So it's kind of that 3-year mark is actually perfect, because it's like, well, if I enjoy this.
If you'd have done 3 years, would you still got your MP school?
Yep. No, I went to nope. That's the whole reason why I did the 5, because it was
get into the MPs.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So they kind of have you.
Yep, they did. Yep. And the reason they do that is because the retention for MPs ain't very high. A lot of people join and they realize, well, they join, they get out right away. Well, we need them to stick around a little longer to get some NCOs. So to do that, that's why they have the 5-year contract. Whereas a 3-year, you're hitting that specialist rank probably E3, E4. So it's kind of like, hey, if you re-enlist, well, in the next year or 2, you're going to be a sergeant, or you can get out, and you didn't really put that work in to be a sergeant. So it's kind of that you're still a Joe, so you still had to work hard, but it wasn't. You didn't have to go above and beyond and go to a promotion board and do all that. So it's kind of a good stepping stone. And that's what the Army's actually found out, is a lot of people are joining and only staying 3 years and getting out. They're using it as more of a stepping stone instead of a career. People get in, do 3 years, and get out.
Sure.
So they're kind of more, even we noticed that in basic training, like during our in-processing phase, the government, they got 2 retirements now. See, at first it was you did your 20 years, and then you got an Army retirement. I only have to do, I think it's 2.5 years, and I get a retirement. So what it is it's an investment fund. You put how much your paycheck you want in there. If you don't want to put nothing, you don't got to put nothing. But you invest into this thrift saving plan is what they call it, TSP. And then say I invest for the next 3 years. I can't pull out till I'm 65 or 60 without penalties, or 65 or whatever. But if I get another government job outside of the Army, I can pay into it.
Okay.
So it's still kind of, you're still not losing your money, but it's still kind of a nice retirement, you know, at the end. You know, might have a couple grand in there, so.
Yep. And it's vested.
Yep, it's vested for the next 50 years, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add, Mason?
I can't think of it. You got any questions?
Well, you've pretty much done it all.
Yeah.
You're a very good interview. So, Mason, I want to thank you for doing this interview,
yeah.
and thank you for your continued service.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.